Hi, I'm Lisa Sterbakov.
I'm Hugh Sterbakov.
And I'm Brian Turner, and we're from Armored Kingdom, the platform where we're developing Web3 trading card games.
And digital comics, animation, and film.
And we're here on the edge of NFT, the podcast that's reshaping the way you keep up with how Web3 tech is transforming your creative future. Stay tuned.
Hey there, NFT curious listeners. Stay tuned for today's episode and find out how Armored Kingdom is the next innovative Web3 project coming from some of the most ambitious trailblazers in gaming and entertainment.
And how one of today's guest prized possessions represents his closeness with two of his best friends in real life.
And find out about Coinbase's first 3D PFP-NFT project. All this and more on today's episode.
And don't forget, we put together a little soiree called NFT-LA just a few months back that brought out thousands of the world's most innovative doers in the NFT space. Head to 2023.nftla.live to get on the whitelist for tickets to our bigger, bolder, better, but also just as intimate and impactful event happening in Los Angeles, March 20th to the 23rd, 2023. See you there. Welcome to the Edge of NFT podcast with your hosts, Jeff Kelley, Eathan Janney, and Josh Kriger. We aim to bring you not only the top 1% of what's going on with NFTs today, but what will stand the test of time. We explore the nuts and bolts and the business side, but also the human element of how NFTs are changing the way we interact with the things that we love. This podcast is for the futurists and dreamers, the disruptors and creators, the fans and connectors, and the makers and doers that are pumped about this ecosystem and driving where it goes next.
Today's episode features Lisa Sterbakov, producer, Hugh Sterbakov, creator, and Brian Turner, co-writer and game designer at Armored Kingdom, the multimedia entertainment universe encompassing comic books, an animated series, and an NFT-based card game. Let's hear a little bit about each of them. Lisa, since 2014, has partnered with Mila Kunis and Cami Curtis on their Orchard Farm Productions. In the company's first year in operation, Lisa sold 6 shows into development, every project they took out to the marketplace, and have since continued at a similar pace. On the cutting edge of the industry, Mila and Lisa launched 3 web NFT projects, Stoner Cats in 2021, and The Gimmicks and Armored Kingdom in 2022, and do not plan on stopping there. She is married to writer Hugh Sterbakov and balances career and parenting, having 2 young girls. Let's hear about Hugh, just mentioned. Well-versed in the comic, CCG, and gaming spheres, Hugh is a multiple Emmy Award-nominated writer and Annie Award winner, alongside being a game journalist, novelist, comic writer, screenwriter, and producer. When he isn't designing intricately detailed fantasy worlds across multiple mediums, he's bragging about his custom hyper-limited Robot Chicken MTG card. He is married to producer Lisa Sterbakov and parents alongside everything else in his busy career. And finally, Brian. Brian lives for a solid, organized spreadsheet and has applied his fixation on mechanics and game design aptly while fleshing out the Armored Kingdom card game to accompany the project. Pulling double duty as a writer on the project, Brian is known outside of his Web3 work as a Humanitas Award winner, writer, producer, show creator, and animation production expert. It's great to have this wonderful crew on the show. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Well, that's quite a group we got going here. Yeah, welcome. So excited to learn a little bit more about everything you've been working on, but in particular, of course, Armored Kingdom. And I mean, look, the idea here, the vision is to help shape the fabric of Web3 storytelling. I think you're well on your way to that. But let's take a step back and ask, how did this thing come together? Like, give us the origin story.
Yeah, we, by the way, we love an origin story because we are all storytellers. And it's our favorite part.
And we can probably skip the part where you guys met and fell in love and got married, because that seems like that's part of the origin here too.
We don't know the details. Come on. I don't know. There might be something cool there.
Yeah, we don't need to skip it.
We did. Quick story. I was doing a burlesque show when we met. And that was a huge part of us getting together, was my burlesque show. But that was many, many years ago, guys. So how did this come together? You know, Mila and I have been producing traditional stuff for a long time. we came into Web3 with Stoner Cats, and we're like, this is awesome. We're major nerds. Like, nobody gives Mila for credit for being the kind of nerd that she is. I think you look at the three of us and you're like, okay, these seem like nerds. Mila, also, you look at her, you don't think that, but trust me, she is. And all four of us played World of Warcraft to an unhealthy level many years ago, and we played a ton of tabletop games. It was just what we done. We've been big nerd gamers forever. And when we started getting in the kind of down the road of Web3, gaming seemed to make so much sense. And Hugh had several years ago kind of come up with this big world and storytelling universe, but for a toy product. So he really thought of it as like a physical toy product, kind of like Skylanders in that sort of world. And it sort of sat there for a little bit, and we loved the idea and loved the story, but weren't quite sure what to do with it. And after we did Stoner Cats, he came to me and he's like, wait, do you think Armored Kingdom works in Web3? And I was like, oh, yes. I mean, like, immediately, yes. And by the way, I say no to everything. But it just seemed like immediately, absolutely, it makes a total sense. And really quickly realized that in addition to being just sort of NFTs, story, comics, and animation, it also was the perfect ground to lay for TCG. So we brought in Brian, who had this incredible game design that he then, in sort of looking, because I think both Hugh and Brian are really new to Web3, in looking at the possibilities, was like, ooh, I can take all of these nerdy things that I wanted to do on a tabletop, and I can make it better and cooler and more awesome in this blockchain space. So that's how it came together, along with our partner Sharad at Liquid Comics, who is making our incredible comic books and our animation, as we're getting into that right now too. So that's sort of the way it all came together. And the vision is, story feeds game, which feeds animation, which feeds comics. All of those things feed each other, and that you could really be immersed in this universe. Lots of different ways to enter.
Well, having done a 36-hour fast this weekend, I'm pretty hungry for all those things. So sign me up for that type of dinner. That sounds pretty tasty. I'd love to sort of give our listeners more.
Wow, you really have done a 36-hour fast, Josh. Everything's going to be a metaphor about food this episode.
Are we just going to gloss over that? Why would you do that?
I don't know. Something to have to do with planning. NFTLA in record time, and sort of the additional weight that entered my biosphere as a result, but it was all worth it. And I'm gonna get it off before the next conference, whenever it is that we go to that. So
and clearly Josh is gonna have some food after this podcast episode.
Yeah. And now I'm on record with all of our listeners, so that creates even more accountability. But
have you had a meal since you stopped eating? Like, what was the meal back?
I just a typical healthy dinner at Lunetta in Santa Monica. They have a really good brick chicken, and then I had an orange to break my fast. So I'm good. I have a little headache, but I'm good. Don't worry about me, guys.
Okay,
we'll talk more about Josh's diet during Hot Topics.
Actually explains a whole lot.
I've ever done a 36-minute fast.
Hey, Brian, let's do it, man. Let's do it next month. But meanwhile, let's give our listeners a little bit more of an overview of this entertainment universe. You started to sort of tell us about the vision, but let's unpack it a little bit more. What's going on there?
Like Lisa said, I came up with this. I was co-hosting the Activision podcast. We were focused a lot on Skylanders, and I have a wide variety of gaming interests. And I just looked at what they were doing with the toys to life and the way the action figures interacted with the video game. And I just thought I could do this better and maybe a little bit more mature. So I created what would have been a toy line focused on the armor that all the different characters could wear. The armor would have various rarities and level up abilities that would interact with mobile devices and video games. And I just had a whole big thing. And I being a story guy, a story background, I created a whole universe around it and all the characters. And it's still a lot of fun. It's like a medieval fantasy world with the edge of this special armor, this powerful magical armor. And I pitched it around. I pitched to Nickelodeon. Everybody was really concerned about the cost of the action figures because my idea was to affix this armor with magnets. So I kind of put it on the shelf for a while, thinking that, I'd come back to it someday. And when Lisa started this web thing, I was like, I looked at what NFTs could do, and I thought that they could substitute for what I wanted to do with the physical armor that could fit on these action figures. And I suggested it to her, and she loved it. The idea behind it is to create it's not all that different from Game of Thrones, less magic than Lord of the Rings. But I love mixing genres. I've written horror westerns and all sorts of stuff. And I just wanted to add this element so that at the end of the first issue of the comic, of the setup of the world, you've got these warring factions in this medieval world, and then the spaceship shows up above them. And it's like, it's not so much what the spaceship is going to do, it's what the effect of that has on the people on the ground. On the ground, we've got these anthropomorphized jungle creatures, and we've got these anthropomorphized amphibian creatures who live under the water, and they're at war. And, what is the spaceship? What effect is that going to have on it? I mean, I kind of look at the end of Watchmen, spoiler alert, where, this cataclysmic event sort of solves larger problems going on in the world. And, it's how our factions are going to scramble to handle that. So we are, I'm a story guy. I'm gung-ho with the comic book, the creation of it all. Brian's helping me co-write, and everybody's doing their thing. Lisa is the producer behind the NFT project. Brian's working on the games. So we're all working together to develop this thing and get it out there. And we're super excited about it.
Yeah. I love that juxtaposition that you do of kind of throwing these strange things together. And I've heard before, people who are more talented than me at storytelling, that oftentimes the story actually just evolves from putting the characters together, and how are they going to react to one another. So I love the idea of the aliens and the medieval folks and whatnot coming together.
100%. I mean, I teach screenwriting, and the first thing I say is that, you got to start with the characters. A premise is wonderful to start from, but as soon as you have that basic premise, you got to figure out your characters, because that's the audience's, it's what they're going to relate to. That's their avatar in the story, and you can't gloss over that. And that's what we're focused on here, which is why I'm so excited to get more of the comics out there. And instead of talking, showing the logo and talking about NFTs and tech stuff, get people to fall in love with our characters, because they're really great. Super excited about them.
Yeah, let's hear about the comics a little bit more. And you have some, kind of several pillars here. Issue 0 already dropped, physically, with a little bit of nod to you kind of wanting to do things in the physical world. You got more issues in the cooker. Give us some details about the comics themselves.
Well, the first issue just sort of sets the tone for what I told you, sets the world, basically ends with the skyship arriving. And then we have a few issues that go into the backstory of each of the races, the Kingdom of the Horn, the humans, the Straka. And then we sort of come around to tell the next part of what happens after the skyship arrives. And everything we're putting out right now takes place about 10 years before the main story. So the main character of the whole franchise is in the first issue as a little girl, and she's narrating it. But 10 years later, where the bulk of the story takes place, the real narrative, she's around 18, and she's basically the first knight of the humans. And she wields their most powerful weapon that, we'll talk about, these armorite weapons that are the most rare NFTs you can get, and they have special abilities. Once we get all this out of the way, this premise building, which the comics really are, we're going to lead into this animated series, which is really going to tell the main narrative of what happens from here, put together a team from each of the races, sort of like the Magnificent Seven, or the Guardians of the Galaxy, this team of sort of misfits and people who don't belong together, don't even necessarily like each other, but they're on this common quest for survival and the future of all the races. And it's just going to be really great.
How many issues are there? Is it right? There's only 5 issues of the comic itself?
There's 5 issues of the comic, counting issue 0. So yeah, so there's issues 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is that right, Brian, or is there a 5th issue?
Well, there's the 6th one that's not part of the original canon, the Worry issue.
Right, but we're not. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's 5 issues or 4. Anyway, there's issue 0, then there's 3 issues. So there's 5 issues. Let's just say that.
Got it.
And if the 6th issue appears, don't hold me accountable.
By the way, they've already written all of these. I love that he's like, how many are there? They've already written them. They're like in production. The next issue is already done. Like but okay.
It's the issue 0 thing that throws everybody off.
Yeah, it's funny because we have for our event, we have day 0. So day 0, 1, 2, and 3. So we just ran into the same thing over and over again. Like, what do you mean by day 1? Tuesday, Wednesday, what? 28th?
Yeah, sometimes something sounds like a really good idea and that you can't undo it. You know, you're writing issue 3 and issue 0 sounded like a really good idea when you put it out. And now you're like, what the hell did I do? What is going on? So that's kind of where I am in that regard. But then again, I could say that about most of the things in my life, except marrying Lisa, of course.
Oh, there you go. Of course.
Well, harkening back to the stoner cats, just try to communicate this zeroth item thing to people while they're stoned. I think you're gonna get even further off the deep end there.
So let me ask a little bit more about the animated show. So you mentioned in terms of the comics, everything's done, the story's written. What's the game plan here on the animated series? Is that a direct reflection of the comics? Is there something more? It's an extension. Tell us about it.
As we see it, the animated show will take off basically after the last comic ends. So all of the comics are backstory. They're experiencing kind of our life. And then from there, at that point, the animated series takes on from there. And we're looking. Go ahead.
A prologue yes. In building the world for the animated series, which will be the main narrative.
Amazing. And so it sounds like, as far as the animated shows are concerned, there's not necessarily an end pre-planned here for it, right? It's a kind of an evolutionary thing as the world develops and the lore develops.
Absolutely. But it's important. I always like to say we know what the end is, you know, unlike maybe Game of Thrones, where we know what the end, we want to tell as much story as we can before we get there, but we know what the end is. We won't betray that. We won't, fumble at the goal line the way a lot of these sci-fi franchises
Amazing. That's great.
And we've got the first 2 seasons mapped.
Yeah.
We're ready to go with it. Especially with animation, you need a lot of lead time.
But it's a world like Star Wars. You could go across the world and tell a different story with different characters, and the setup of this magical armor or this magical ore that is sort of like setting everything into motion and everybody's revolving around it can be used anywhere. So it's a lot of fun.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm getting pumped about it, guys. You're hearing about this, man. Super pumped.
Definitely. Brian, let's talk a little bit more about the CCG gaming system, which lies at the heart of Armored Kingdom. What are some of the mechanics and goals of the actual game that you designed here?
Sure. So I want to start with a caveat saying, we're still in the coding testing phase. So anything I say here is aspirational. Don't come back 6 months from now and be like, what happened to this thing? Because
I want to fly around space with the aliens, man. And
Exactly.
that's all there is to it.
Exactly. This is, I like to describe it as more like Dungeons and Dragons, or a role-playing game, than it is like Magic the Gathering or Pokemon, those kind of games. One of the sort of the crushing moments going back to Hugh and Lisa and I playing World of Warcraft was when the Burning Crusade came out. It was this first major expansion. And by that point, we had like top tier gear on all of our characters. And we go through the portal into this new world that we were, out at midnight buying the game at the initial drop. We go through the portal and there's, just a random monster just walking across the desert. We kill it and you get this green common item that has better stats than the stuff that you've been wearing for 6 months that was like 7 raids of a major dungeon to get to roll on to win, so that hurt, the idea that this new common stuff is better than the stuff that is like my stuff that makes me. So the Web3 aspect of this whole thing really gives ownership to the players. And so what I wanted to do is have your equipment evolve with you. So it's not that your flaming sword is exactly the same as Bob's flaming sword. If you've been using your flaming sword for 6 months, your flaming sword is different than Bob's flaming sword, so that you have some some feeling of ownership. And additionally, the time you put into your equipment, if there's a secondary market where people are trading this stuff off, if you put 6 months into making this one sword awesome and you decide to get rid of it, it's worth more than the sword that someone just opened 2 days ago.
Nice. Yeah. I think so much has happened in the space since Stoner Cat's dropped, and the gaming side of the space has sort of evolved so much. And it sounds like you've taken some inspiration from those before you, and you're also sort of adding some additional enhancements. We always talk about how important it is when it comes to the gaming side of Web3. It just has to be an awesome game that people enjoy. And can you talk a little bit more about like how you're just going to make it really fun?
Sure. Well, one of the things that I think people underestimate in these games is the sort of bells and whistles that come along with the game, right? The core of the game has to be fun, but just to give an example, you want to earn things to show off how much you've played, how good you are, these are achievements. But if I'm online playing a game and you have an achievement, I don't know that you have that achievement unless I go look you up, and no one does that. No one looks you up. So one of the things that we wanted to put in is like, in the PvP side of things, they're fighting in an arena. You're head to head with your opponent. But there's no reason that you can't have a pile of skulls behind you that represents how many people you've killed, so that as soon as the battle starts, your opponent goes, oh crap, this guy's got 1,000 skulls piled up behind him. I'm in trouble. Those kind of aspects, I think, make the game super customizable, super fun, and allow you to feel like it's you doing the battle as opposed to you control a character that controls an army that is doing a battle. You know what I mean?
Do you want to talk about Brian, about the simultaneous turns?
Sure. I mean, this is one of the mechanics that right now it works perfectly on paper. We'll see. One of the things that annoys me in games like Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone, or not that Magic's wrong, but it's very your turn, my turn. On your turn, you're on offense, and on my turn, I'm on defense. And on my turn, I'm on offense, and on your turn, you're on defense. And that is not how things work, like in reality, So I've managed to come up with a system where we're both on offense and defense at the same time. We're both making decisions, not knowing what the other person is doing. So for example, if I've got a sword and a shield and you've got 2 axes, you can be pretty sure that I'm going to block one of your axes with my shield because it's a shield. What else am I going to do with it? So you have to plan your attack based on what you think I'm going to do, and I have to plan my attack based on what I think you're going to do. And then the game, once we've both committed it, the game sorts out what happened, and we get to see. So it's that's awesome. It's a lot more dynamic. It's a lot more like chess, where you're playing the other player more than you're playing the pieces.
Yeah, there's elements of Magic the Gathering in there, and poker and other, right? Yeah, all that, right? The game theory elements of it. You can see that evolving in some really cool ways. Yeah, very cool.
I love these alternative creative gameplay tactics as well. We just had on Boss Fighters, which takes like a person with a virtual reality headset and setup, and makes them the boss of a game, whereas the people on their PCs playing the game get to be like the players of the game, right? And the boss gets to like throw them around and do all this cool stuff. I've just loved seeing all these creative applications of things. Can you guys talk to us a little bit about partnerships? You have such deep connections in all these spaces. How does this all play into your plan coming forward?
Well, I mean, we coming from the side of the world that we come from, partnerships are everything. I mean, we don't, on the movie that Neil and I have coming out in a few months, there's 3 different production companies, there's a studio, this is how we work. You work in collaboration with other people. So we have a game collaboration that we're not announcing yet, that will be coming out, that we will be announcing probably in September. But that is already deep in work, so that's fun. And obviously,
Any hints? Nothing.
Other than I will say that when we were talking to people, Hugh saw the name of one of the people on our meeting and went, "Oh shit, that guy's a fucking legend." So that's the only hint I'm going to say.
Yeah, 20 years ago, I used to write for the video game magazines when they were still in print. When I first moved to LA and I was starting as a screenwriter, I used to write screenplays during the day and review games at night. And I actually interviewed this guy. So, he's in no shit. I mean,
So you're talking about Mario from Super Mario Bros.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Luigi.
Okay.
And Luigi, we have both of them. That's right.
Both. Nice. Okay.
But we obviously, Liquid Comics is an incredible partner and always have been, and are part of this process as well with us. And we're currently actually already in conversations about who our distribution partner will be for the animated series. So now we can make it ourselves, so we don't need, between Liquid and us, we don't need a separate studio. But we will not be distributing it ourselves on a website. It will be distributed in a more traditional way.
So does that mean the Web3 audience has to go back to Web2 to see the content?
I will say that, let's see, how do I not spoil this? I will make sure, we will make sure that along the process, that we continue to lift the veil of the process to our, of all, the way that we build animation. If you look at both the gimmicks and Stoner Cats, you get to see what we're making all the time. Now, we don't ever want to spoil the story for people, but we do want people to be able to see what we're doing, understand where we are, be part of that process. We are going to continue that ethos all along the way. We just also we feel like, everybody talks about how do you onboard normies. You onboard normies by going where they are. And they're not here yet.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would be fascinated to learn about the genesis of Stoner Cats and what you're thinking here in great depth at some point, since we're only a highway away from each other, we can figure that out. But I give you such kudos for being such a pioneer in this industry and sort of taking on the next challenge, right? People want to know how this gets done. And most of the people that come on our show say, we tried this and it worked, or we tried this and it didn't work. And this is there's a lot of unknowns here. So I asked my question with an appreciation for the journey that you're on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely it. With Stoner Cats and with gimmicks, with Stoner Cats, we tried a lot of stuff, and some of it, we made some assumptions, and some of them were good and some of them were bad, and we learned a lot. But you can't know how to do it until you do it the first time. And none of our peers are doing this. So it just wasn't a thing that was even on anybody's radar. We had to create systems and put things in place that never have been put in place before. We have contracts with actors for Web3. That didn't exist. It does now. That's fun. And then we took that and sort of iterated with the gimmicks and had it more interactive. And now it's now how can we iterate again? Take the things that we learned that really worked, improve on them, make them better. And that's it's kind of like that SaaS model where you're just I'm going to keep trying this shit until we find the right thing. Because I also think none of us know what the thing is that's going to become the massive breakthrough. And I'm excited, I'm going to keep trying to be part of whatever that thing is that really breaks through to the mass market.
And music to our ears, definitely lean startup folks over here, agile development, all near and dear to our hearts. I love to see that. Also, I got to ask, we had Gareb Shamus on the show talking about Hero Maker Studios. I imagine you guys cross paths in a number of different ways.
For decades, yeah.
Yeah. I could see some synergies there for sure. Any conversations about what you each are working on?
Well, what's really funny is actually Sherrod and Gareb, they just got together. They were at some event, and Sherrod's our comic side, and they've known each other for forever and ever. Certainly, we really want interoperability in lots of ways. So whether that's with story, where we get to do story mashups, we already we did it with Stoner Cats, gimmicks, Deadheads, and Subducks. We did a full mashup episode that we produced. We really want to do that. We do want to do that with story, but we also want to do that with gameplay too. We really want to find how do our pieces work with somebody else's pieces. We don't know that yet. We're so desperately want that for ourselves as fans and as nerds. We want to do that ourselves.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, one of the reasons I get so pumped about y'all talking about it is just your backgrounds and capability to go execute. Against this, we can all have ideas and a vision, but execution ends up being everything, right? And speaking of execution, as we look at your roadmap, what's next? What's on the horizon here that we can talk about?
Well, the next issue of the comic is done and will be out shortly. What we're doing a lot is sort of playing with how we drop things. The first comic we funded the Near, because we're doing this on Near, so that nobody even had to touch anything crypto themselves if they were really new. We really wanted somebody who had never had an NFT to be able to put in their email address and mint and have their first thing in their wallet. And now we're trying to make sure that same smooth and ease in our next drop is there, while allowing them to experience the part of putting in a little bit of Near. And the great thing is it's like, $10 and you can mint a ton of stuff because it's low gas. But we were going to keep these all in totally free. All the comics will be free. The first parts of the game, the first people who are there with us playing this game, it'll be free. It's going to be a bit before, we want to make sure that what we have there is great and is working, and that the people who are there at the beginning get to experience it first. So that's part of it. We are also starting work on a TCG, or a tabletop game. So like a tabletop RPG. So we're working with people who, Brian has written them before, but we're working with people who do this professionally to help write that with us, so that we can do we have a dungeon master she'll be in and DMing. We'll do it on Twitch. We'll be able to have the whole community have fun playing in this universe while we're building our game. So we want our community to be able to be immersing in the universe as we're doing that game build.
I come from the world of Hollywood, and 20 years spent in development and rewrites and getting hired and nothing ever going ever. It's so hard to get a dollar in Hollywood for development, let alone get something made. And in this world, people get behind us, they believe in us, they invest in us. We have no bosses. We have nobody to tell us no. We have nobody to spank us creatively, no studio executives, no money people, putting their thumbprints, I think that the main guy should be an octopus, and that's the kind of nonsense you get. I wrote a novel about werewolves, and I had this development executive say, I don't like werewolves. What if it's demons? Did you read the thing? The whole thing is a love letter to the mythology of werewolves. So this is super exciting. We're creatively free to do whatever we can think of. And that's just, a wonderful situation to be in. I wish it upon any creative person.
Yeah. And Lindsay McInerney, who we brought in, we stole her, frankly. She was the first person. She did the Stella Artois Zed Run horses. So she was the first person to put a brand in the metaverse. And then we were like, come be with us. This is going to be awesome. And what's amazing about her is that we have, we're creatives. So we have ideas that we're like, what if it's this? And she's like, well, I don't know. Why not? Let's try it. Because we aren't limited by what we think the tech can do. We can ask for things that maybe nobody's done yet, which is fun.
Yeah. It's so amazing what's possible here. And as you're thinking creatively and reflect on what you've seen in the space, we always like to ask our guests what projects, concepts, and Web3 have been most inspirational to all of you.
Okay, well, I'm going to take this one because the guys are what? And I'm going to say something that's probably pretty controversial. This downturn was really hard on a lot of people. And I am interested in projects that are not about using the blockchain to make speculative assets. I'm interested in projects that use digital ownership in ways that mirror it in ways that we do in real life. The things that we normally do. We play games and we consume content and we tell stories and we take those experiences and actually make them better by that technology. Right now, it feels like we're only using the blockchain as we've just decided that these things are a value of a certain thing, and it's speculative, and I'm sure people have made a ton of money. I know they have, and people have lost a ton of money. And I don't think that's the best and highest use of blockchain, in my opinion. So when I see people who are doing things that really are taking a normal sort of thing and making it better, and gaming is the thing. This is a game piece we want to own the same way I own Magic the Gathering cards. I own them. And we've sold Magic the Gathering cards that we've had, we've traded them, we've all those experiences that you get to do with Pokemon or any sort of other physical thing. We now can actually do that. And when I'm leveling up my character and I decide that I don't want to play the flaming sword anymore, I can sell it. As opposed to when I'm in World of Warcraft and my bags are dead. My bags are just dead. They just sit there. So this is a much more interesting use case to me, as opposed to let's drop the rarest thing and hope that it goes to the moon. That's not interesting to me. I don't want to create speculation. And also it creates a game that people can't afford to play. And I want a game that people can afford to play.
Yeah, so a lot of your inspiration comes from traditional gaming and entertainment space, and trying to sort of bring some of that energy here. Yeah, I mean, totally appreciate what you're saying. When we reflect on the industry and sort of what we want to do with the next NFTLA, it's all about mainstream adoption and building bridges, and that comes from real utility. And this has been a consistent theme on our show for the last few months. And all the guests, you'll be happy to know, are really committed to bringing true utility to the space. And so I think we have a pretty exciting road ahead, and some really amazing pioneers like yourselves helping to get us there.
That's so exciting. And because like when I even explained to these guys, when we were doing Stoner Cats and explained to these guys, like, this is what it is. And they're like even all of us, everybody who first hears it goes, I'm not paying $100,000 for a JPEG. Like, that's crazy. And they're never going to really get that. And there is a space for that and a place for that. It just isn't what we're ever going to be doing.
And this is all the evolution of a very disruptive form of technology. And we're so early. This is part of what we're seeing, creative destruction, that process, it's all happening before our eyes, and we're all a meaningful part of it. But let's shift gears for a minute, guys. Let's move to the next segment and talk a little bit about some questions we call Edge Quick Hitters. It's a fun, quick way to get to know you a little bit better. We're looking for short, single word or few word answers from you, but we may dive a little bit deeper here or there. Again, there's 10 total. And what we're going to do today with 3 of you is work our way through and rotate one by one across these questions. And we'll see what we come up with, okay?
Jeff,
y'all ready to dive in?
Jeff, I'm realizing that this is the second show in a row where we've had a married couple, answering these questions together.
I know. We may have some follow-ups. We will see. Okay. Question number 1. Lisa, we'll start with you. What's the first thing you remember ever purchasing in your life?
Well, now everybody's gonna know how old I am. I remember buying the cassette tape for Starships. We built this city on rock and roll.
Oh my God.
So that I could play it in my little cassette player that sat on my waterbed.
Nice waterbed. Nice.
What year was that? Like
1985 or something.
Yeah. So somewhere in there. Yep. So I bought it with like money that I had gotten and saved. So that's how old I was. It wasn't like, yeah.
And
Beautiful.
those were doubloons, right? Some kind of ancient.
That's right. They were doubloons.
Well. That's right. Nice. Beautiful. I'll double check that year, because I have that cassette in my garage, actually, I think. Yes, I'll find it and send it to you. Question number 2. Hugh, we'll go with you. What is the first thing you remember ever selling in your life?
Oh my gosh, that's a hard question. When I was very little, I learned to read from comic books. It's been my whole life. And even when I was just 10 years old, I got hired at the local comic book store, and they would only pay me in comics. And I started wheeling and dealing comics even back then. There was a Dark Knight collection book that was super rare that I really wanted, and my dad wouldn't let me get it. So there was a guy at the comic conventions, he was always there, who had one. And it was every month. And every month I would bring a little stack of comics and slide it over to him, and they would accumulate in a trade to get that book, which I'm stuck here with a headphones, but the book is like 7 feet away from me right now. So I sold a bunch of comics to get that book that I desperately wanted.
Amazing. Nice. Brian, we'll go with you. Question 3. What is the most recent thing you purchased?
Most recent thing was a new Mac Mini. I needed to upgrade my my setup because new games are coming in, and I'm gonna have to start playtesting.
Amazing. Yeah, I got my eye on some of those new ones as well. So it's working okay for you so far?
So far.
All right. So far, so good. Cool. Lisa, back to you. Question 4. What is the most recent thing you sold?
I sold a movie to Amblin.
Not too shabby. Amazing. All right. Question number 5, Hugh. What's your most prized possession?
Aside from my kids and my wife. Well, I've got the first appearance of Spider-Man. It's behind me, up there. So when I was young, bring it down for 1 second. When I was young, my best friend passed away, and to name drop, really well. I'm best friends with Seth Green, and he's kind of famous for customizing figures. And he made an action figure of my friend who passed away, in a Star Wars flight suit, and put it on a card, made it look like an actual action figure. And every time I look at that, it's real important to me, because it's my two best friends sort of sharing their love for me. So it's back there too.
Damn, that's one of the best answers we've had, Hugh. Amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, man. Question number 6, Brian. If you could buy anything in the world, digital, physical, service, an experience that's currently for sale, what would it be? What do you have your eye on?
A ranch. I got to get out of LA. It is too hot and too crowded.
Yeah. Do you have a location in mind?
I'm looking in Idaho, but who knows?
Okay.
Just going to be like horses and cattle and stuff, or how deep are you going to go?
You got to throw some goats on it just so it counts for tax
Get the llamas.
purposes.
Go for some llamas.
Yeah, exactly.
A ranch guy named Curly. It's going to be great. Awesome. Okay. Question number 7. Lisa, back to you. If you could pass on one of your personality traits to the next generation, what would it be?
Hugh's face. Oh my gosh. It would absolutely be stick-to-itiveness. I just go. I just get it done. I once quit a job because years and years ago, they hired 4 people to replace me, and then they shut down the division because nobody could do it. Because I just will continue to do it until the job is done, to the detriment of my family and myself and my general health and well-being. But the ability to just put my head down, get it done.
Look at Josh. He's like, oh yeah, I understand that. I understand that completely. Absolutely amazing. Hugh, to you, question 8.
I'm not going to comment on Lisa's other traits, but here really quick, this is the action figure that Seth customized for me. I can't get it clear, but you can see it. So he made that. That's my friend's name, and did a really good job with the likeness. You can see there's his photo, and there's the figure. Really talented in making action figures.
That's pro.
There you go.
Amazing.
I thought for sure the question was going to be, what traits have you two passed on to your children?
Oh boy. No comment. I mean, desperately. In the history of no comments, this is the knowest comment that's ever been no commented.
Well, Hugh, question 8. If you could eliminate one of your personality traits from the next generation, what would it be?
God. Oh my God. What wouldn't I eliminate? My lack of emotional control. I'd prefer, I'm much better in my older age, but Lisa has such a good control of her emotions, and she's able to keep calm, get things done. And when my fuse is lit, I sort of sometimes lose focus on what the prize is. And I wish I could have back a million times in my life where I've, lost sight of the prize.
Tough one. Wrangle that passion in, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, question 9, Bri, what did you do just before joining us on the podcast?
I took my dog for a walk to try and get him to calm the F down.
Yeah. Similar personality trait. What kind of dog? What kind of dog is it?
It's a beagle.
Ah, okay. Rambunctious beagle.
Yeah,
sounds good.
He's
all right.
He's about 2 years old. We got him during the insurrection. We drove up to the breeder, and they were giving a big speech at the Capitol, and then talked to the breeder and picked up the dog, got back in the van to drive home, and it's like, they're breaking into the building. I'm like, what the hell?
So does the beagle howl with the sirens when the ambulances go by, similar to my neighbor's dog every single day?
I'm 3 beagles in a row for no howling.
Wow.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Truly impressive. Last question, Lisa, back to you. What are you going to do next after the podcast?
I'm going to make us all dinner. So we have a little extra time, so I'm going to do some work. And then Hugh's going to pick up one of the kids from music camp. And I'm going to make us dinner so that it's all ready to go when everybody gets back.
Awesome. When you say us all, does that include Brian or no?
No, Brian only eats candy. That's not an exaggeration. Brian only eats candy. Apples and candy. It's really not okay.
And candy apples, probably.
The apples only help them poop out the candy.
There's a system. Amazing. Well, that was Edge Quick Hitters. Y'all, thanks so much for sharing with us. We appreciate it. Word is we got a pretty special hot topic to queue up. E, what do you say?
Yeah, let's do it. But I'm realizing that when we have couples on, we have to do some sort of a newlywed game type question as well, even if they've been wed for a while. But that's gonna add some spice to the session. But yeah, on to hot topics. So today's sponsored hot topic is featuring one of Coinbase's first NFT releases. Coinbase is thrilled to announce the first in a series of collectible NFTs celebrating the art and possibility of CG design. From the eclectic mind of veteran designer Misu and Days 3D, the graphics studio that powered Batman Cowls, RTFKT, and CloneX, comes Qubits, the first in a series of limited edition NFT releases celebrating the art and possibility of CG design. Foregoing the automated approach of algorithmically generated NFTs, each of the 500 Genesis qubits are meticulously hand-designed by the artist. These colorfully emotive, playful, and expressive qubits are inspired by Yuga Labs Meebits, Lucas Zanotto's Mood Rollers, and a healthy dose of anime to instill positivity and inquisitiveness in all holders. And today we are welcoming Misu and Kirsten from the team, and we're going to get a little bit of intel from them on the project. So welcome, Kirsten and Misu.
Yeah. Thank you both so much for joining us today. And it's just a really special episode of so many talented folks like yourselves doing so many cool things in the space. We'd love to sort of learn a little bit more about this Genesis collection, some of the utility that you've baked into it.
Thank you. First of all, we're super, super excited to be here and super excited to be one of Coinbase's first PFP drops, not one of, but the first, but one of their first drops. Not only are we following your last guest, but we're also following Bill Murray in this drop. So it seems it seems serendipitous that both of this is happening on the show and our drop is happening Friday. I mean, who else better to follow than Bill Murray, right? As you mentioned, Daz 3D is a force in CG with a global community of AAA talent. And we've been around for 2 decades. We have a marketplace, so we sell 3D assets. As you mentioned, we've proven this with our TFK and our drops with CloneX and partnerships. And we're uniquely positioned to curate world-class collections. And this isn't just the first, there will be more. But I think we should hear a little bit more from Misu because he is the creator and he did these all by hand. This is not a generative collection. They are all different. There's 500 of them. And as Hugh and Lisa and Brian were talking about, this also tells a story, which we love storytelling. So Misu, do you want to give us a little bit of the background of how these little crazy cute guys came to be?
And for the viewer, I'm featuring his video here for a moment so we can see the cool background he created. You can tell us a little bit about that for the listener as well.
Thank you very much. The first thing I want to say is that I'm so honored and excited to be one of the first artists to release the NFT PFP project on Coinbase. Well, I spent a lot of time to create these little qubits, but I never thought that I can be, so luckily be chosen by Coinbase and to be able to launch the release at this early age. And I'm following Bill Murray, and I know he's a famous comedian. I never saw his movies, but I know he's a big deal. So I'm super excited and honored.
Well, you know, our other guests here know Bill Murray, and maybe they can, they're in the same sort of.
They know
tribe,
about Bill Murray. They know more about Bill Murray than the rest of us. Let's put it that way.
I will be definitely checking out his films after.
Yeah. It's well, I mean, it's just a testament, I think, to this cool concept you built out. These guys look so cool. And, you know, Coinbase is very fortunate to have you all in the mix.
Yeah, let me ask, process-wise, so obviously Coinbase is a behemoth, in the industry, and they've just kind of entered into the world of NFTs here recently. Like, what was that process like, being, courted by them or interacting with them? Like, how did that work?
We have created partnerships with a lot of the online bases and had a few launches, and we've been really excited to have that partnership with Coinbase and create that relationship. And I mean, how many have they had released? Not many. And we're coming in as the first PFP collection.
Yeah. So riding, off of the momentum of your previous work and successes and those partnerships, which are so important. I'd like to know, like, in terms of timeline for other folks interested in doing something like this, a collaboration with, say, Coinbase, from inception to completion, you're just about to launch. Like, what kind of time frame should people expect?
Well, I have to be honest that they came to us a couple of weeks ago and we said, we have a spot earlier. So can you guys launch on Friday? We'd really, really like this to happen. And we were all set and ready to go. So here we are.
Wow. That's super quick.
It's really quick.
That's like the UFC fighter that just decides to get in the ring with no notice. When you get the opportunity, you just grab it by the reins and just get it done, right?
Yeah, and they've been such a great partner and really, really supportive in creating the launch and supporting us in how it's going to happen. And yeah, it's been awesome.
I'm asking about utility in the future. Like, how do you think about utility as it pertains to this project? What's on the roadmap? What are the opportunities going forward?
Well, we have a lot of things up our sleeve. The roadmap, this is definitely not the first thing that we are going to release. And we have some, possible bonuses to people. The price is set at 0.07 ETH. So that's, I think, pretty attainable for most people.
Amazing. So accessible price point, which is great. Sounds like a good number of, connections to your other projects. I guess that's one of the benefits of launching several successful projects, is the ability to intersect them in different and interesting ways as you take individual communities and bring them together into a global community. Really, we were talking earlier about just the meta purpose of projects and trying to get people into the space, tapping into the fun. Right now, we were just talking about gaming before, but just how do we attract more people into the space? And I'm curious, in terms of building community, like, what are you guys doing on that front to bring people that maybe this is their first NFT into the space?
Well, we have the Discord channels and Twitter, and we have done this before. We have a huge creator artist network. We have almost 1,000 artists who sell on our store, and we're really hoping that helping back Muso's project, we can do the same for future artists and really give them the opportunity to get in the space and showcase their work and really be able to represent not only our community, but bring others into the space. And we have someone from almost every country. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Wow. That is amazing. And if people want to, follow it, follow the drop, follow everything that's happening, where should they go to follow the progress of the project?
They can find us on Twitter. Okay. And they can also the Muso and in Discord, I believe.
That's awesome. Well, we're excited about this drop, and our listeners should be too, because you guys have decided generously to give away 2 NFTs. So thank you very much for that. We really appreciate it. And we'll share some exciting details about that contest on social. So listeners can check out social to get all the deets there.
Yes, definitely. Please.
Amazing stuff. All right. Qubits' first PFP drop on Coinbase. Exciting. Congratulations on that. Just one of the first few ever. Anything else before we break out here?
No, I just want to remind everyone that we are the partners with RTFK, with Artifact and CloneX, and also Batman. So if anyone wants to check those out, the cowls were released, all crazy stories. They look amazing. But yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us, Kirsten, Miso. Thank you.
We own the cowls, by the way. Yeah. Nice job. We own the cowls. He was such a huge Batman fan. The second I was like, I'm buying you an NFT. This is your very first NFT. That was his very first NFT.
Really? Yeah. That's awesome. Wow. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
It wasn't a stoner cat. It was a bat cow.
There you go. And yeah, I mean, these are both revolutionary projects that you guys were part of. Warner Brothers, we're fortunate to have them at NFT LA announcing that project. And, what Artifact has done for the space has been absolutely incredible. And it's made a lot of my friends very happy with collecting NFTs. So yeah, congrats on all of your achievements so far. And in this next step on your journey.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And thank you again. We're really, really excited to be the first PFP launch on Coinbase.
Yeah, thank
Congrats.
you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining, y'all. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
And Hugh, that reminds me now, did you check out the cowls and the whole setup over at NFTLA? I don't know if you guys talked about that at all.
We didn't make it to NFTLA.
Oh my gosh. Oh, dude, that was so cool. All right. Well, we'll have to do something special for you. We're going to have a lot of fun things queued up. So
Once you have kids, you don't get to do anything fun at all. It's over. It's over, dude.
Oh, I thought the kids were the fun.
I don't know. You guys seem to be having a lot of fun.
No.
Yeah. I agree.
You guys
Josh.
each take one of our
Josh.
kids. You guys each take one of our kids for a week, and you'll see your fun.
In all
The
honesty,
idea of fun is redefined.
All right.
at
So
least half the comic
so-
books were written while he was sitting in a parking lot waiting for his kids to get out of music practice.
That's all I do anymore.
I got to ask too, what is a particular instrument singing? What's the course, the music course?
Oh, she plays guitar and piano, and she's like
in a band.
she's in a band. She's 13. She's cool.
Oh,
It's
man.
annoying.
Sounds like
Yeah.
super cool. Like what
Oh,
kind of?
man.
Just like we're like what's
Like
she
she's
play?
in a Nirvana. She's doing Nirvana covers right now.
Grunge. Nice, amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
No.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
She's
6 in the
13.
morning.
She calls me bruh, and she's pissed off about everything. She's pissed about everything. She
It
sits
sounds-
on TikTok all day. We watch movies. She talks over them and then asks me what just happened. And if I refuse to answer, bruh, it's,
She's gonna listen to this. She's awesome.
she's not. She doesn't care about anything I do.
That's true.
Well, that is amazing, and I feel like there's a story forming here, Hugh. I could tell already. There's something happening here in the background. Waiting for the screenplay on that one.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Right on. Well, cool. Well, look, I think that's about it for this episode, guys. We could spend probably all day talking about this stuff. Super fun, but we do want to make sure we're directing all of our listeners appropriately to the right place to follow yourselves, Armored Kingdom, like everything that you have going on. Where do we tell them to go?
Certainly go to armorkingdom.com. You can read the first comic. You don't have to own it to read it. So you can read the first comic, and then links to Twitter and Discord there. I'm at Lisa Sterb on Twitter. Brian, I don't know what you are. What are you on Twitter? And Hugh, what are you on Twitter?
I'm nothing on Twitter.
I'm Brian's. I don't want to say anything because I don't want to get canceled.com.
Nice.
I'm at Darkhugh on Twitter, DARKHUGH, but I'm not terribly active. But you can find me there. If you want to.
But both the guys are in Discord all the time. They're talking to people about story. They're in there engaging like pretty regularly with the Discord team.
We're having a terrific contest on Discord right now where people are creating creatures for our world. We'd love it if more people came. So if you have a little bit of creativity in you, there's a good chance that one of your ideas could be a mini boss in a game later on.
Yeah, we just held the contest to design a creature for our world. And there's limitless possibilities. We can do that all the time. It's really fun, really great.
It sounds cool. It sounds like it's such a fun, engaged community that you guys are there, present. It takes time, I know, but to do that is a testament to your commitment to that community. So that's amazing. Check it out. Get in the Discord, y'all.
We gave away signed copies of the comic.
Yeah, that's right. And so
actually, on that note, there's a segue.
There it is. I appreciate it. So to take Hugh's cue there, we are doing a giveaway actually for this episode. It's going to end up being 5 physical issue 0 Armored Kingdom comics signed by the team, y'all. This is crazy. Amazing giveaway. Keep an eye out on our socials for all the details on how to have a shot at winning these things. Super cool, super generous. We really do appreciate that. That's going to be something you're going to want to score for sure. So keep an eye out. We'll get the deets out to you. Okay, well, I think we have reached the outer limit at the edge of NFTs for today. So thanks for exploring with us. We have space for more adventurers on this starship. So invite your friends and recruit some cool strangers that will make this journey all so much better. How? Go to Spotify or iTunes right now, rate us, say something awesome, then go to edgeofnft.com to dive further down the rabbit hole. Also, check us out on all major social platforms by typing Edge of NFT with no spaces and start a fun conversation with us online. Lastly, be sure to tune in next time for more great NFT content. Thanks again for sharing this time with us today.
The views and opinions expressed on the Edge of NFT podcast reflect solely those views and opinions of the show creators and its guests. We're learning as we go, just like you. Please make sure to do your own research. Our podcast is not financial advice. There are multiple strategies and not all strategies fit all people. You understand that you are using any and all information available on or through this podcast at your own risk.